Now, this has implications on a number of parts of our lives, and we have identified some 5 key areas. In our discussions, and Achina Brentio is here with me. In our discussions yesterday, Achina, we began by talking about how, in the first place, there's the implication on foreign donors and partners. Talking about how, persons, the supports are for persons who are natives and persons who are also claiming to be nationals.
Yes.
Also.
Yes.
How can we account for the actions of persons who claim they are nationals and are not nationals?
Yes.
And then another issue, planning and budgeting for nationals when we are issuing public resources.
Yeah.
Now, I will stop here. There are 5, but I'll stop here because this morning there's a story on page 3 of the Daily Graphic talking about how the Cape Coast Teaching Hospital is owed 6.175 million Ghana cedis, 5.8 as of December, but till date, a total of 6.175 million Ghana cedis by the National Health Insurance Authority. And Malik brought us the story. I'll let Malik bring us the details of that again. During the news review, that's what you were talking about. But it really comes to the heart of how much money do we have to share to Ghanaians? And is it enough for the number of Ghanaians that we have? Malik, let's begin with the story in Cape Coast. So what exactly is it telling us?
So this is outstanding bill, and this outstanding bill was submitted. And you know that the way the NHIS works, when claims are made, usually the health facilities will provide a service to persons holding NHIS cards, and then it will submit to the National Health Insurance Authority the claims for a particular period. And historically, we have had times when claims have been outstanding for years. What over the years the NHIA has done is to try and cut down the number of years or months that claims remain outstanding or unpaid. That's what the NHIS has done. And you have to remember that in times past, we used to have very frequent reports about unpaid claims. And sometimes you had whole groups of healthcare providers deciding that they will no longer attend to persons holding NHIS cards. And you have persons even who went to the hospital, and there was a feeling that if you had an NHIS card, you were not treated as priority. Those who paid cash were treated as priority and attended to. Those who hold NHIS card are attended to as a last resort. And the explanation given by the health institutions is that because the health insurance does not pay, and sometimes claims can remain outstanding for years, and they have to pay their suppliers and everybody, they cannot afford to attend to people when the NHIA is not paying them. Now, what is happening with this hospital is that for 8 months up until December last year, they submitted claims for this period, which was 5.8 million, which has not been paid by the NHIA, and that is crippling the service delivery of the hospital, because remember that the hospital itself relies on suppliers who supply them with all kinds of things that they need to provide health care. Now, when these people have not been paid for 8 months over a year, because if it's 8 months last year and we are in March going into April, that's more than a year, and they have not been paid. The suppliers are unwilling, according to the chief executive of the hospital, are unwilling to continue to supply staff to the hospital to provide health care when their monies have not been paid, up to the tune of almost 6 million for last year alone. It's the reason the chief executive wrote this distress letter to the National Health Insurance Authority, saying that urgent steps have to be taken to pay them this outstanding bill so that they can pay their suppliers, so that the suppliers can continue to supply them, then they can continue to deliver healthcare. Otherwise, the last resort will be they will no longer attend to NHIS card holders, and this is likely to affect thousands of people who all depend on this scheme for their healthcare needs.
Now, of course, the NHIA has officially responded.
Yes,
So
the NHIA
Daily
said that
Graphic-
they received the letter, they acknowledged receipt of the letter, and the acting chief executive, Dr. Jan Selby, said that they received the letter, but they are expecting some payment to come. And once that payment comes, then they will settle this hospital and maybe some others which are outstanding.
That's a good question. Maybe some others which are outstanding. We are currently working the lines to get the NHIA on the show so that we can get further particulars on why this debt accumulated in the first place. You know, the NHIA has been talking about funding issues. And you see, 8 months in 2018, right? I'm looking here at a publication where President Akufo-Addo is being challenged by service providers. Okay, the president of the Medical Superintendents Group, Dr. Joseph Tamibil, says that some 1 billion Ghana cedis, which government said had been paid to service providers, had not been paid. This was as of this story is actually dated 19th November, somewhere 2018. So we were being told last year repeatedly that we have paid money to NHIA, we have paid money to service providers, we have paid money to service providers. We don't have a problem. But for 8 months there, a hospital like the Cape Coast Teaching Hospital did not have their payments made. It makes me think, Malik, about how many hospitals across the country have similar challenges. And Achena, most keenly, the people who will be going to Cape Coast Teaching Hospital and face the possibility that they can't use their NHIA cards, what happens to them?
It's horrifying, and it's a hospital I'm personally familiar with. Actually, that was where my wife delivered. I must commend the administration of that particular hospital. As we speak, it's fully automated. When you go there, the services delivered there is highly professional. The people there are very, 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 very sympathetic to the cause of the people they need to attend to. And one important thing is that the place almost always looks like a market, because the hospital serves not just the Cape Coast community. It's a teaching school for the University of Cape Coast. It's also for University of Winneba. And almost all the hospitals who are not able, or all the hospitals that are not able to take care of serious cases, are referred to that particular hospital. So the point is that if this hospital, which is more or less the mother hospital for all smaller hospitals and clinics in that particular vicinity, which is discharging highly professional service to the community, is going to be cut because of this legitimate, as it were, debt. Actually, I'm saying legitimate because from the reading, we are told that the National Health Insurance Authority has acknowledged that indeed this debt is due and owing to the hospital. So it's about time we really look at the implication. I cannot imagine for the life of me that somebody who is in labor, somebody who needs surgery, somebody who needs some critical health attendance is left to go unattended to because debt is owing. And as we speak right now, many people, when they go to hospital, even with the National Health Insurance, they have to depend on the benevolence of doctors, benevolence of health professionals to actually help them to do their services. One thing happened in my case when my wife was delivering. Actually, we didn't pay anything. I should put it that way. We virtually did not pay anything.
Any physical cash?
Yes. Mm-hmm. We were in a position to pay by the grace of God. We were placed to pay. But because of the National Health Insurance, and actually it was my wife who had it, most of the real things that were going to cost us a lot of money, we did not pay for it. And guess this, when our son was born and we needed National Health Insurance for him, because for some reason the National Health Insurance seemed not to be doing new registration, and we have not been able to do it for him. Anytime he goes to hospital for checkup, we have to pay 20 cedis for consultation, and 20 cedis is a lot of money, because for all of us, not for some, for all of us, because when you go to hospital, you pick taxi from where you are coming from, in and out, you can't take the boy through the sun. That's about 20 cedis. Then the consultation fee is 20 cedis. The mother will eat, the son will eat, and it's terrible. I remember once seeing a mother who was, she was carrying a baby. She's wrapped the baby in some clothes. The eyes of the baby was almost white. The eyes was bulged in, looking skinny, and the mother was pumping fan milk into the mouth of the baby. It was so terrible. So the point I'm just trying to make is that when people go to hospital with their sickness, the moral question for doctors to decide that, okay, we don't have national health insurance, we cannot also turn you back, makes it such a big decision for whoever is supposed to make that decision to do, because the man is dying. And in fact, the distance between keeping your life and actually dying sometimes it's a question of 1 minute, 5 minutes, 3 minutes, depending on what needs to be done. And it's a serious thing. And I think that the health authorities, we understand Ghana is challenging so many fronts. We don't just need money for the national health insurance, but for all other sectors. But when it comes to the question of health, you'll be surprised that you are the Papa now didn't and these are people who otherwise can be Daniel Dazi, can be Malik Dabu, or any other person. And that's it.
So really, that's Achina sharing his personal experience at the Cape Coast Teaching Hospital.
Yeah.
Kudos to all the doctors there who worked so hard. I mean, Achina has spoken very, very well of you guys. And you see, this is the challenge I have, because the publication I have is from 25th April 2018.
Okay.
The caption is this: arrears cleared. Claims of non-payment of debt are isolated. Now, I'll acknowledge that the NHIA boss at the time, Dr. Samolano, he says that there are claims of non-payments of arrears. Some are there. But they are not, it's not a general problem. They are arrears, right? I'll take you to the body of the story. President Akufo-Addo was speaking at the London School of Economics Africa Summit the week before. And he said that of the 1.2 billion Ghana cedis inherited, NHIA debt inherited by this government, the equivalent of $300 million had been paid in 15 months. And this was about close to mid-2018. So from 2017 till then. It totaled about 1 billion Ghana cedis. Okay? And that was the equivalent of 250 million. So the total debt at the time, that exchange rate was 300 million, and they had paid about 250 million. Okay? Barely a week after that, Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia repeated the same thing at the 2018 Health Summit organized by the Ministry of Health in conjunction with the World Health Organization in Accra. This is when cracks began showing. Now, the Association of Private Clinics denied receiving payments. And the spokesperson, Donko Boache Samuel, told Joy News that the arrears are adversely affecting health delivery in the country. This was private health facilities. Dr. Samuel Ano said, and I remember, Malik, you hosted an upfront with him on this matter.
Yes,
I'll come to you very shortly. He said, he told myjoyonline.com that if there are claims of non-payments to some service providers, they are isolated claims. He said that the NHIA had provided an inconclusive list, and that story said the NHIA provided an inconclusive list of hospitals and other facilities which were paid some monies in December 2017. Dr. Ano insisted that all the claims which were submitted on time and through electronic channels have been paid. Yeah. So here he tells us in April 2018 that if you have submitted your claims on time and through electronic channels, you have been paid. However, in Dr. Selby's response here, she said that they receive almost 750,000 Ghana cedis in bills from the hospital monthly, and its last claim was received in December 2018. But as of December 2018, Cape Coast was owed 5.8 million.
Yeah.
When they had been receiving monthly claims from Cape Coast Teaching Hospital. So here the cracks begin to show. And even whilst I'm speaking now, I'm seeing messages on my phone from private hospital operators who are telling me that they are owed.
Yeah.
So the question is simple. How much do we owe hospitals nationwide? When was the last time some of these hospitals were paid? Do we have a clear picture of it? And what are the repercussions? Because here we have a hospital that's close to a year has not received any money. 6.175 million Ghana cedis. And another concern, you see, on the policy level, we need to be careful because the finance minister, Ken Oforiatta, announced recently during the mid-year budget review, remember, that the VAT and NHIA levies, the VAT, NHIA and Get Fund levies had been reclassified. So NHIA and Get Fund had been removed from VAT and had been made a straight levy. This increased the funds going into VAT and NHIA and Get Fund.
Okay.
You see, because there was, we did this whole input-output calculations. I don't want to go into it, but they basically more money was going to government in the name of NHIA and VAT. How much did we collect? How much extra money did we claim? Where did that money go? And the most basic question, why is it that people in Cape Coast are facing the danger of not getting treatment when they go to the hospital with NHIA cards?
Daniel, I think that as soon as possible, government should respond to this issue. It is important that government gives us official information. It will not do anybody good, whether government or the hospital, if we speculate about what is happening, or better still, deepen the ongoing anxiety between the parties involved. But what must be clear is that in as much as health is essential, we have in time past identified that some of the health officials use the agency of health to blackmail government into paying claims that are not due and owing. For example, we know that sometimes the claims are falsified, sometimes they are bloated, and sometimes actually they don't exist. We've had people prosecuted or people entirely dismissed. And we've also had hospital officials engage in actions where people go to hospital, and because the drugs there are for national health insurance, they will rather not channel it. They will rather let people who are on cash and carry have those kinds of assets. So genuinely, in as much as these claims must be paid, the hospital administration, we want to appeal to them to understand the sensitivity of this issue and not use it as a form of blackmail. Because once somebody is at the verge of dying, somebody is in a critical condition, virtually they will do anything. Let doctors go on strike today. Government will react. It is not because government thinks that the concerns they are raising are in its entirety very legitimate. It simply means that if government wants to engage them at the level that they are engaging government, the casualty, or if you like, the harm that will be caused cannot be reversed. So we are appealing to all parties that cool health should prevail. But most importantly, the truth, exactly where the issues are, should be placed so that those of us who are more or less commenting and analyzing this issue may not, as it were, badmouth government or if you like, make the issues more murkier than they are. As it stands now, it is difficult to tell that government told us the truth when they said it cleared all arrears, or the hospital.
Well, they didn't say it cleared all arrears. It said at the time in April that they have cleared 1 billion out of 1.2 billion in April.
And then the one thing too that we should understand is that health is very expensive. It's possible to clear 2 billion today and accrue the same amount in the next 1 month.
Of course, like Dr. Selby said, 750,000 is received every month.
That's the thing. So it's a question of we making sure that we have what it takes to actually roll out this national health insurance thing we are talking about. And I'm also asking that if we can probe further what is happening with new registration. Is it that there's a hold on it? Because personally, once my wife was enjoying it and I thought it was so good, I said, no, why don't I have national health insurance? I went to Amasaman to register, I wasn't successful. I went to Cape Coast University to register, I wasn't successful. I went to Elmina to register, I wasn't successful. And
when you say you weren't successful, what do you mean?
They said that there's a hold on registering new people. Apart from renewing the existing ones, they were not registering new people.
When was this?
I think, to be fair to them, I gave up around December. Around December, I gave up.
So we don't know what the current situation is, but this was pertaining, and it's instructive to note that Dr. Johnny Selby said that the last order was received, the last claim was received on the Cape Coast Teaching Hospital in December, and the Cape Coast Teaching Hospital themselves acknowledged that their debt as of December was 5.8 million.
So what latest do we know about registering new people?
Which is why we need the NHIA to join us and answer some questions. Unfortunately, we have been we have been making attempts to reach them and we are unable to reach them. I mean, since we saw the story in the news review, we have been making calls frantically and we are unable to reach them as of now. What I'll do is that we'll bring Malik, we'll want to tie a nice bow on this one and transition to our next conversation. I'll pick some 2 or 3 phone calls or to comment on this matter. 0302 216 541 0244 340 437. But Malik, this is much deeper than we call it.
Okay, so let's look at it this way. It used to be much worse than it is. In fact, there were times when, and I have been involved in NHIS. I've done training for NHIS managers and PROs across all the 10 regions previously. So I know the issues. NHIS used to be in the news almost on a daily basis about non-payment of claims. I think that recognition has to be made. When I hosted the then Chief Executive of the National Health Insurance Authority, Dr. Ano, one of the things he raised was that the manner in which the scheme has been set up lends itself to fundamental difficulties in raising sufficient funds to pay for it. And he cited an example. Currently, the premiums that are paid for NHIS is 22 Ghana cedis. Now, if you are not a SNIT contributor and you are registering, you pay a registration fee of 8 Ghana cedis and a premium of 22 Ghana cedis. That makes it 30 Ghana cedis. Now, if you take an average person, say Ben's wife, she registered with NHIS, she must have paid, if she's not a SNIT contributor, she must have paid 30 Ghana cedis. And she's entitled to go and give birth there. Her child is entitled to free medical care up to about 18 years. That is a huge burden on the scheme. It is precisely this, for this reason, that he was advocating an increase in the levy, in the NHIS levy, at least by 1%. The 2.5% increase by about 1%, so that the fund can raise sufficient money to be able to defray all its costs and to pay claims as promptly as possible. Again, one other fundamental point that Ben raised is the vetting processes for the claims that are submitted and the dishonesty that is attended to some of the claims that have been submitted. And we are not suggesting for a moment that the claims submitted by the Cape Coast Hospital are fraught with anything. We're saying that generally there's been a very huge problem of inflated claims, sometimes doctored claims, that claims do not exist at all, that they have been made. That is why, and he explained to me on upfront, that they have to take time to vet the claims before they are paid, which is one of the reasons why claims payments delay.
For a year, Malik? I know you are not the NHIA, but let's interrogate what he said. For a year.
And I'm saying it used to be worse. It used to be years. So there is an improvement, and we have to recognize that improvement. Having said it, I'm saying the claims, he said, themselves are not enough, because if you pay 22 cedis premium, his argument is that that's paltry sum. Of course, there is NHIS levy, but he was advocating an increase in that levy. If you remember, the last time finance minister was in parliament, there was a suggestion that VAT was going to increase. That was the time that they decided that they would not increase VAT.
But they will reclassify VAT and NHIL.
Absolutely. At the time, there was a suggestion that VAT should be increased by a certain percentage. The NHIS levy component of VAT should be increased so that we can raise money, that we don't have to run into the kind of debt situation that the president referred to, about 1.2 billion debt inherited. That if we raise sufficient money by increasing the levy or increase the premiums that people pay, and if there is a recognition that the people are incapable of paying the premium, then raise the levy so that you can raise money. My wife did insurance in the US. She was required to pay $200 a month. $200 a month. Do the conversion and you see how much that is. That was monthly. for her health insurance.
Before you go on, Malik, let me once again invite listeners in 0302 216 541 0244 340 437 0302 216 541 0244 340 437. We are looking at, you see, the NHIA and its effectiveness. When you're going to the hospital with an NHIA card, what's your experience? If you are in the healthcare system, we'd really love to hear from you. What's been your experience? You're in hospital management, you work as a doctor, you work as a nurse. Let's hear you. I have a few messages here. Some NHIA staff have set up fake verification portals in lieu of providing verification machines to service providers, which returns every query as valid and tricks providers into serving patients who are not actually insured. Patients pay an artificially low premium for political reasons and are often not registered in the system but are issued cards. Staff of NHIS are known to tell service providers to kick back a percentage of their payout in order to receive prompt payment. I am in hospital management. Josephine from Osu says, Daniel, can you believe some of the hospitals take money for most of the things NHIS covers and still send claims to NHI for payment? Let me hear from Chebafo, who is calling us from Weja. Good morning, Chebafo.
Hi, good morning. How are you doing, Daniel?
I am blessed. How are you doing?
God's grace, we're doing well. It's an interesting topic you are discussing this morning. I beg to differ. I wonder whether Malik now speaks for the NHIS. Let's get him in the studio to get some questions answered. Wager here, you can't do new registration. I'm talking about Wager SEC. No new registration is going on. Please let your team come and check.
Thank you very much, Cheba, for informing us. When was the last time you went to try in Wager? Okay, unfortunately, we lost him there. You can send it in as a text message, Sheba, for 0244340437. David is calling from Teshi. Good morning, David. Please turn off your radio and let's hear you.
Hello.
Hi, David. Good morning.
Good morning.
Yes. So, what's your experience with using NHIA?
Okay. You know what? I support what the first caller said. You understand? And most of the things over there, which NHIS page, you understand, they still takes money from you. I was in somewhere up at the was a coupon. I went to the hospital and I was asked to pay some money. So after that, I quickly called the center and I told her this is what it's like. It was like, no, it's supposed to be free. So I asked my wife in Accra, and my wife was told me the same old thing. Listen, David, you're not supposed to pay. So why did you pay? I was like, listen, I did not understand. So I was trying to call the center and this is what it's trying to confirm from you. So it's like they're trying to take money from the government. At the same time, they take money from us, which is very bad. At the end, they tell you have to increase the premium, which is very bad.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, David, for adding your voice to this. So there are some inefficiencies with the NHI system. That's an observation we are making. Musa is calling from Nima. Good morning, Musa.
Good morning. How are you doing?
I am blessed. How are you doing?
I'm doing fine. God bless you for this wonderful topic. In fact, those of us in Nima, I think, are one of the most affected by this NHIS non-registration. As I speak to you now, I have people who keep coming to me, asking me as to when will this new registration begin. And I tell them I have no clue. You see, it's a big problem. Master, if you go to, example, Mamoudi Polyclinic or the Nima Government Hospital, and you sit down for just 1 hour, you will cry. People hold the NHIS card. They have access to doctors, but when they get to the pharmacy, they are told there are no drugs. So they will have to now go and buy. Then they tend to ask themselves, they say the NHIS is working. Now I've gone to hospital, I cannot access any medicine. So it's a huge problem. I think the government needs to do something seriously about this. And I think that the capping of the statutory fund, the NHIS fund, is also a problem. The people are already struggling to manage the system, and you come and cap the funding. It's a problem, please.
Thank you very much, Musa, for calling us from NHIA. It's indeed a problem. Christian is calling from Accra. Good morning, Christian.
Good morning. My contribution is based on one, as somebody who has been working in the hospital before, and as a finance, and the delays has a big effect on the hospitals and the clinics. It can go as much as over 1 year without payment. That is a bigger issue. But there's another bigger issue that comes in. NHIS funding or the levies should not go to consolidated fund. If you want to really manage it, those funds are supposed to be cut and put somewhere, not to consolidated fund before it's reimbursed to, or pass on to NHIA. So all the time until government has enough to pay them, they don't get it. But if we set aside, have account for all those levies and all goes indirectly, I think there will be enough funds available for them at every point in time to manage it.
Interesting.
And two, other people, other providers, which I'm part of it, I've gone to some hospital or a hospital, and in fact, I paid for almost everything under the NHIS. So I call and I query, why should that? Is it that they are taking all this, but because my child was sick and it was not closer to my house where I can attend to, I have to pay for all. But under the NHIS, and I was so marveled, and it's not right here.
Interesting.
So it's the problem is we, the providers, are one, and the structure is also another issue where the fund is being controlled. So something that we have to holistically look at it, because NHIA is very important and it helps and saves a lot.
Thank you very much, Christian, for your contribution. The problem is, of course, more complex than we let on. Otu is calling from Latte. He is our last caller. Otu, please turn off the radio by you so that we can hear you clearly.
Yeah, okay, Didi, good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm fine, sir.
Great. Let's hear you.
Okay, Daniel, if you come to Latte, if like those who go there to go and renew the national card, they take money from us, 7 cities. When we renew, they take from us, and moreover, if you, the machine that they use for the verification, we don't have. So unless we, or for the card, unless we go to somewhere, Dodoa, or go to far away from us.
Otu.
So please.
Otu.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
When you are paying this money, are you giving a receipt?
No, they don't give us receipt.
So this is aside from the renewal fee for NHIA? Yes, because when you are going to renew your insurance, you need to pay an amount, but you need a receipt for that. So you are paying an extra 5 or 7 Ghana cedis, like you were saying.
Yes, just to renew when it's gone off.
Okay, thank you very much, Otu. That's a key issue that we need to push directly to the NHIA authorities so that they can look at. You're still listening to the Super Morning Show on Joy 99.7 FM with me, Daniel Daze. So there are a number of angles to this conversation that we have gathered. Of course, when we listen to you, our listeners, we are blessed with so much insight and so much wisdom. We thank you so much for contributing to this discussion. One issue that has been raised, the comparison to the US may not necessarily be accurate because in the US there is no NHIL. There's no direct levy to citizens, so the premium may be high. However, even as it stands now, a lot of healthcare professionals, I remember the last time we had Dr. Paddy Aite here, he raised the same points that he feels the premiums we pay is too low. Again, there was this point that was raised by one of our callers, and there's a text here confirming it. The increase in the levy will not solve the problem if the money goes to the consolidated fund, and there they cap it, and we keep some for the consolidated fund, and some goes to the NHIA. Amma from Jolu says, in a very, very big hospital in Accra, the medical block takes 5 Ghana cedis if you have the NHIS card. iClinic takes 20 Ghana cedis if you have NHIS, and those without have about 40 Ghana cedis or more. Gynae, one pays about 15 Ghana cedis. That's a very major hospital here in Accra. Your messages on this issue are still welcome. We've been trying to reach the NHIA. Unfortunately, we have been unsuccessful as of now, but this is a bigger conversation that we'll definitely work at having with them. What we'll do now is that we will take these messages and move into paper citizens. Because you see, the question that was being raised by one of our callers was that when we pay our NHIA, okay, it goes to the consolidated fund and then they send the money to the NHIA. But if the money going there is not enough for the number of Ghanaians we have, or the number of people who are supposed to have our resources, or we have to cap some of that money to build roads for some people, or subsidize some people's free SHS, or whichever reason it is. I'm not saying that's what exactly the capped funds are used for. It becomes a problem when we don't know the exact number of people we have. We don't know the rate at which we are growing. We don't know how many will be in 10 years. And if people are taking our birth certificates when they are not supposed to, that's what happens. So it's a very key conversation we're going to have after this. Stay with us. This is a Super Morning Show. We here, as soon as we come out, we just play quick Kwetenate's documentary, Paper Citizens. Stay with us.
I want you to first think big, not small. Think of how great we can be when we work together.